The hall of
Onward, my
Concord
army! We
trembled
march to
with
victory!
1,000 alien voices. It was the grand arena station of the Aurelian Dominion, a structure forged from star metal and pride, orbiting the violet gas giant Xiphar Prime. Delegates from over 300 species filled its ascending tiers: scaled diplomats, crystalline scholars, feathered warlords, and entities that shimmered like living nebulae. This was where disputes between civilizations were settled when words failed. And today, words had failed spectacularly. At the center of the arena stood Princess Valeth, heir to the Aurelian throne. She was tall and radiant, her opalescent armor etched with ancient sigils of conquest. Her 4 golden eyes swept the arena with disdain as her voice echoed through the amplifiers. "Let history record this," she declared, mandibles flexing in what her kind considered a smile. "The Aurelian Dominion will not be restrained by a newly discovered Deathworld species whose arrogance outweighs its significance." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Deathworld species were rare, dangerous, unpredictable. Most burned themselves out before reaching the stars. Humans were different. Across from Valeth stood a single figure on the obsidian platform, Commander Elias Rourke of the Terran Coalition. No armor gilded with gems. No banners. Just a dark combat uniform, scarred boots, and eyes that looked like they had already seen how this would end. Rourke had volunteered. Not because Earth demanded it, but because Valeth had demanded submission. The princess lifted her chin, her voice dripping with amusement. "You're doomed, human," she scoffed. "You stand before a royal champion of 1,000 conquered systems. Your species still struggles with internal wars and fragile alliances. You believe surviving a harsh planet makes you exceptional." The arena cameras zoomed in on Rourke's face, broadcasting it across the Dominion. Many spectators leaned forward, expecting fear. They saw none. Rourke exhaled slowly. "Princess," he said calmly, "on Earth, we call this kind of misunderstanding a learning opportunity." Laughter erupted from the Aurelian stands. Valeth laughed loudest of all. "Beginning, the arrogance of stars." The conflict had begun 6 cycles earlier, when Aurelian expansion fleets crossed into a region humans called the Ashline Belt. To the Dominion, it was an unclaimed corridor. To humanity, it was a graveyard of colonies lost during their early interstellar years, sacred ground. When Terran diplomats protested, Valeth personally answered. "You claim stars with sentiment," she had said during the Hollow Summit. "We claim them with strength." The Dominion offered a single concession: trial by champion. A ritual older than their empire. 1 warrior from each side. Victory would determine ownership of the Ashline Belt. To the galaxy, it seemed generous. To humans, it was a trap. The Aurelians were renowned for their champions, bioengineered nobles trained from birth, augmented with combat instincts and adaptive physiology. No human, they assumed, could match that. That assumption brought Elias Rourke to the arena. Rourke wasn't Earth's strongest soldier. He was its most experienced. A veteran of frontier wars, pirate purges, and first contact disasters, he had survived environments that crushed tanks and hunted creatures that evolved to kill humans specifically. He carried no enhancements beyond standard neural interfaces and reflex boosters. What he carried instead was memory. Middle, when legends bleed. The gong reverberated through the hall. Valeth's champion stepped forward. Chrysith the Unbroken, a towering Aurelian noble encased in living armor, his limbs bladed, his carapace pulsing with kinetic shields. He had defeated 32 champions without injury. "Do you try to entertain me, human?" Chrysith hissed. Rourke said nothing. The field activated. Chrysith moved first, blinding speed, a blur of motion that shattered the stone where Rourke had been standing a heartbeat before. The crowd roared as blades sliced air that should have been flesh. But Rourke had already rolled, boots scraping, firing a compact kinetic pistol not at Chrysith's body, but at the floor beneath him. The explosion destabilized the platform. Chrysith stumbled. Just for a fraction of a second. Rourke was there. He slammed a combat knife into a joint where living armor met organic flesh. Chrysith screamed, an unthinkable sound. The arena fell silent. Vailith's eyes widened. The champion retaliated, flinging Rourke across the platform with a force wave. Bones cracked. Pain flared white-hot. Rourke stood anyway. Blood dripped from his mouth as he wiped it away. Yeah, he muttered. That's about right. Chrysith advanced again. Enraged now, his movements savage. He slashed, impaled, crushed. Each blow should have ended the fight. Rourke adapted. He used broken terrain as cover. He let Chrysith overcommit. He baited strikes, sacrificing skin to save organs. Every movement was inefficient, but intentional. The crowd began to murmur. This wasn't elegance. This was survival. When Chrysith finally impaled Rourke through the shoulder and lifted him off the ground, Vailith stood. Enough, she said. Yield, human. Rourke coughed, blood spilling. He looked at Chrysith's exposed throat, opened wide in triumph. Humans notice things like that. Rourke detonated the last charge on his belt. The blast tore through Chrysith's neck plating. The unbroken fell. Dead. Silence swallowed the hall. The princess trembles. Medical drones rushed in, but Rourke waved them off, forcing himself upright. His arm hung useless. His ribs were shattered. He shouldn't have been conscious. Vailith stared down at the corpse of her champion. That was impossible, she whispered. Rourke looked up at her, eyes sharp despite the pain. Princess, he said hoarsely, you made one mistake. She swallowed. And that is? You assumed humans survive death worlds because we're strong, he said. We don't. The arena leaned in. We survive because we refuse to stop. For the first time in her life, Princess Vailith Jaron felt fear, not of death, but of understanding. She saw it then, not just in Rourke, but in the human delegates watching through the feeds. Scarred, calm, patient, predators who didn't roar. They endured. Ending, the cost of understanding. The Dominion honored the trial. The Ashline Belt remained under Terran protection. Aurelian fleets withdrew, without protest. But something far more valuable changed. In the cycles that followed, human advisors were quietly requested by other empires, consulted on warfare, resilience, disaster survival. Humans became known not as conquerors, but as the ones you sent when failure was not an option. Princess Vailith requested a private audience with Elias Rourke before he returned to Earth. She found him aboard a medical cruiser, arm in a regeneration sling, staring out at the stars. I was wrong, she said softly. Rourke didn't turn. Yeah, happens. She hesitated. What would have happened if I had chosen war instead of ritual? Rourke finally looked at her. His gaze was gentle and terrifying. You'd have won the first battles, he said. Maybe even the first war. She waited. And then, he continued, humans would have learned everything about you. Vailith shuddered. He offered a small, tired smile. Princess, never challenge a species that evolved on a world that tried to kill it every day and failed. As the cruiser jumped to hyperspace, Princess Vailith understood why the galaxy now whispered a new truth.